Welcome to the Women Lighthouse podcast, your friendly guide through all the ups and downs of life. We're here to remind you that every woman has the strength to take charge of her journey and make her dreams come true. Each week, we'll share heartwarming stories and helpful tips from amazing women who have faced their own challenges, come out stronger. Tune in, get inspired, and let's start this exciting journey towards achieving your dreams together. The Women Lighthouse, your guide to a brighter tomorrow. Hello, you're welcome to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. I am Dr. Uyime Hamilton, the host of this podcast show, and we've basically been going through a homeschooling series where I get to share about my homeschooling journey alongside my friend and also a homeschooling mom. And today, we're going to be talking about the challenges with homeschooling in Nigeria. In developed countries, homeschooling has been ongoing for years, but in Nigeria, we're beginning to embrace alternative means of educating our children, and that's where homeschooling comes in. But it's not without its unique challenges, and I'm basically here to share the challenges I've experienced thus far and other homeschooling parents also encounter. First, homeschooling is not legalized in Nigeria, so there is no well-written legal structures that have been put in place and made it more officially recognized. So yes, you can homeschool your kids, but there is no regulatory body. Like the United States of America, for instance, they have a regulatory body for homeschooling. But here in Nigeria, it's not legally recognized as a form of education. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you are breaking a rule or a law if you choose to homeschool your kids. So because it's not legalized, a lot of people don't even know about it. If you mention to someone, oh, I'm homeschooling my kids, the first thing they would think is, okay, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you're saying. So it's only very few people that really understand the nitty-gritty about homeschooling. And because it's not legalized, naturally, when you see a child not in school during school sessions, the first thing a Nigerian would think, okay, what are you doing? Why are you not in school? Or you see a child and the first thing you want to ask is, oh, what class are you? And because for a homeschooling parent, they may not necessarily be going based on class. Like for me, I don't tell my son, oh, you are in primary one, you are in this, you are in that. I just teach based on what is expected for him to know at that certain age. So that's another challenge that you'd face with homeschooling in Nigeria. And also because there's no legal structure, like if you're traditionally schooling your kids, there's a curriculum for every class. And at a certain stage, maybe once you're in primary 6, you're expected to write the common entrance. Once you're in JS3, you're expected to write a certain exam. Once you're in SS3, you're expected to write a certain exam, and it's like that because it's already structured. But with homeschooling, people homeschool based on what their reason for homeschooling is. They determine their curriculum based on the learning style of the child, based on their interest, and based on how their family is structured. So that leads to a lot of inconsistencies and infusing their homeschooling practices basically into what is being done. But how can you handle this? So it's important to understand your environment. First, you know what your goal for your child is. Do you want your child at the end of maybe high school to proceed to go to college outside the country? You would know what are the requirements for that, and you begin to prepare your child in that light. Or would you want your child to just homeschool in primary school, then in secondary school you enroll in a school here in Nigeria, you would know what the requirements are and you begin to plan and tailor that your homeschooling in that direction. So know what is your reason for homeschooling, what do you want to achieve with your homeschooling, and you plan based on that. Another thing which I've already started to talk about is cultural perception. I know how challenging it was when I started homeschooling my kids, and my mom kept complaining that it's not good that this child is not in school. He will refuse to bond with other children. He won't like going to school. And the pressure was mounting. So this is a common challenge that is being faced in Nigeria when it comes to homeschooling. There's a perception of what is expected of a child. At a certain age, you should be enrolled in school. At a certain age, you should be in this class. At a certain age, you should do this and you should do that. So because homeschooling is not widely accepted and understood, a lot of homeschooling children sometimes are stigmatized. It took me doing my research and reading a lot about homeschooling and following homeschooling parents both within Nigeria and outside Nigeria, joining a homeschooling community to become more confident to even come here and talk about it and proudly say I'm a homeschooling mother. And even people that are close to me, when I tell them, they're like, how do you do it? So, and you can't get to start explaining to everybody the concept of homeschooling or what you're doing. So that cultural perception is a major challenge in Nigeria. And basically, how did I handle it? Like I said, did a lot of research. I didn't necessarily owe anyone any explanation, but if you were close enough to me, I would share with you what I do and how I do it. It's not necessarily why I do it. And I don't try to convince anybody otherwise. I just own my own decisions and I follow through with it. Another challenge with homeschooling in Nigeria is assessment and certification. Homeschooling families will face this difficulty, especially if they intend to at some point transition their kids back to school. But I've seen a lot of homeschooling parents where they allow their kids go through the assessments just so that the kids have an idea of what standardized testing should look like. They have that experience. So even if they may not be using it, they have that experience. So to deal with the challenge of assessments and certifications, you need to know what is attainable in your environment, know what your goal for your child is, and begin to expose your child to that. So for instance, if you want your child to write common entrance, even if you are homeschooling your child, you would need to expose your child to that curriculum for common entrance. For instance, in Nigeria, you would expose your child to the Nigerian curriculum. Like for me, as I'm transitioning, my son will be he's 5 now, going to 6 by next year, but usually a session begins in September. My own personal plan for our homeschooling is that I'll begin to expose him to the Nigerian curriculum so that he has that experience when it's time to write a standardized exam. So I'll begin to expose him to both the text. I'm already doing that with the textbooks he's using at the moment, but also with ULesson. ULesson is a helpful resource if you want to do the Nigerian curriculum, and it's readily affordable. So for you to be able to deal with the challenge of assessment and certification, do your research and begin to expose as you teach your child, expose your child to the curriculum for what is expected for that standardized exam or certification. Also, another major challenge, which I know I have faced, is the option of co-op. If you are not a stay-at-home mom or a mother working from home that's working remotely, when you are at work, you will need a place for your kids to stay. That's one. Then to deal with the socialization issue with homeschooling, especially if you are homeschooling just one child. So if you have only one child, you need to be able to have a co-op. And the thing about a co-op is basically a group of people coming together, either homeschooling parents or not, but coming together for the purpose of association, learning, interaction. So the co-op is beneficial for both the child and the parents. So now you need to have an idea of what you want in a co-op. Is your co-op just for academic purpose? Is it just for socialization purpose? You need to understand that. Like for me, the reason why I really needed a co-op is because I work in an 8 to 5 job and I need a place where my kids can be when I am at work. While they are there, they can interact and they can learn. My aim for them being in the co-op is not 100% academics, no, because we still do academic work at home, but it's basically for childcare and for interaction. So when you know what you want, you can plan. Also, your budget, because where I stay in Nigeria, man, the cost of co-op is not even smiling. In fact, generally, the cost of school fees is not funny, not to talk about co-op. So, but you look at your family structure, look at your budget, and from there do a research. So I remember when I had to start looking for a place. In fact, how I came across the co-op I currently put my kids in is just someone that bakes cake for me. I saw on her status someone advertising the co-op, and I was like, wow. So the prayer factor too is there because I was really trusting God for it. That was one of the decisions I needed to make before deciding to homeschool my kids. So co-op options, sometimes they are available, but they may not necessarily be affordable. So you need to know what works for you. Another thing you can do is you can create your own co-op depending on your structure and what you want. Like other than the co-op I take my kids to, we have like a group of friends. How we started this was, okay, we wanted our kids to learn how to swim. So we came together, looked for a swimming academy, enrolled our kids there. From there, the bond of friendship between our families grew. And we now decided, okay, we can do this more regularly. Let's, even if it's once in 2 months, once in 3 months, we could just hang out together as a family. When we're celebrating the kids' birthday, we can celebrate it together. So we use those opportunities to gather. When we're celebrating something, we come together with the kids. So that's basically for socialization, for interactions, and also for extracurricular activities. So the truth is you can create a co-op based on what you have in mind, just in case the ones that are available, you can't afford them. So, and lastly, the issue of tutors. Some mothers or parents may feel that they don't have what it takes to teach their child. In fact, when I started, I think that, okay, when I attempted homeschooling, then I just relocated from Akwa Ibom to Abuja. I was pregnant with my daughter, then my second child, and I was looking for a place, a school for my son. But while I was looking, since it was second term, I came to deliver. So third term, it didn't make sense to enroll him in third term. So I said, okay, I'll use third term to look for a place for my child, a school. And while I'm looking for a school for him, I'll just do my best, try and be teaching him so that he's not like he's staying idle. Man, when I attempted teaching him, I was confused. In fact, I was like, I don't think I can do this thing. Or how do teachers teach this thing? Then he was even trying to learn how to write. How will I teach him how to write? Connect the dots, how? Like, I just didn't know. I had to call his school over there in Akwa Ibom, call the head of school and ask her, how do I teach my child how to write? And she now tried teaching me, okay, just say a stroke down for one, a curve and a dash. I tried, my dear, it wasn't working. It just wasn't working, whether it was pregnancy, hormones, or what, it just wasn't working. I just told myself, see, I can't do this. So there are some parents that fall into this category that they don't really know how to teach their child. And they may decide to get a private tutor. Many times, it's just like having a teacher, a lesson teacher, how children go to school and later you hire a teacher. But for this case now, for the homeschooling, for the teachers in school, maybe the lessons is within the school environment. So you're not considering the transport of the tutor and all that. So, but to get a private tutor, most times it could be expensive, it could be pricey. So this is also a unique challenge that we face when homeschooling our kids here. So you just have to look for creative ways. Like I said in one of the series, that if you attempt teaching your child yourself and it's not working, you can explore a co-op where there's someone that teaches the children as a group, or you can explore audio visuals depending on what the learning style of your child is. Like for me, my son is a visual learner, he's a tactile learner. So if I want to teach him how to count, I use stones. He loves stones. He loves playing with stones. So when he's packing the stones, I allow him. Then when it's time to learn addition, subtraction, that kind of stuff, we use stones. So you need to understand your child's learning style. Look for creative ways so that you can cut down on the cost or the need to get a tutor, except where necessary. So for instance, now, my son is at the stage where he needs to learn how to read. I've attempted teaching him how to read. He has learned how to sound, learning how to blend, but still, in my own opinion, I feel like he's not picking up in that pace. Like when it comes to reading, we're quite slow. So every now and then I go back to it. But now in this current period, I told myself, okay, before we transition into September, I want him to be able to pick up with learning how to read. So I spoke with his co-op teacher and said, okay, we are good in every other area, but this issue of reading is still a challenge for us. So while in school, can you focus? I still call it school because school is an avenue for learning. Remember, homeschooling. So while in school, that's the co-op. Please just engage him a little bit more in reading. Let him learn. Maybe if it's someone else teaching him, he would pick up faster. So it's like a partnership. So in this case, I'm not hiring a private tutor. It's the co-op, and with the co-op, she's teaching other kids also, and they're learning. And what I love about the co-op is it's not just about writing, drawing, and all those things. Yes, those things are there, but it's more of interactions, more of oral learning. Like when my kids, even my daughter that is 2 going to 3, came home one day and started reciting states and capital, I was shocked. A 2-year-old reciting states and capital, that's because it's something they learn every day, they recite every day. So the beauty is when you're homeschooling, you know what your strengths are. With a co-op, it's easy, or with a tutor also, it's easy to leverage on what are not your strengths. But look for it in such a way that you don't necessarily have to break the bank in order to get a tutor. There are more creative ways, and a co-op is one way to leverage on that. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I believe that if you can practice these things I've shared, it will go a long way to help you. See you in my next episode. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Women Lighthouse podcast. We really hope today's episode has given you some great tools, resources, and a boost of confidence to take charge of your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. You can also follow us on our social media handle for even more tips and a wonderful community that's all about supporting your growth. Join us next time for more uplifting stories and encouraging insights. Until we meet again, keep shining bright, stay inspired, and embrace your unique path to a better tomorrow.